Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I've grown into the person that I am today. And you are the very first viewers of my very first video filmed on my new camera. Here is my old camera right here. It took me a few minutes to get all the settings adjusted so that I could figure out the lighting, because when I started filming it, it was so dark on this camera. And I was like, where are the settings at? I'm not very technological. And so I was like looking at the settings because I bought the exact same camera. Thank God. Because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have known what to look at. And I mean, I guess I could have probably read the instruction manual, but there's no fun in that, right? I never read the instruction manual. And so I was like looking at this, and I kept on getting it wrong. This is why I like the game of memory when I was a kid. I was not great at. I loved it, but I wasn't great at it because I keep on looking at it, and I'm like, I like watch all these like reality challenge TV shows where you have to like look at something and then remember, like Big Brother. They did a lot of these where you have to like look at something and remember exactly how it is, and then go there. I would have like failed those challenges miserably. So anyway, I was sitting out here having a little bit of coffee, and I was thinking to myself, you know, I want to do a Peterisms video first today. Well, actually, I was just going to film my vlog today. And then I was like, you know what? I think I'll film a few more videos than just my vlog. But I am not going to film videos across the board today. I think I'm going to do this and maybe a review video, and then maybe a Peter Does Stuff video, and then my vlog. But I will be filming throughout the weekend. So tomorrow will probably be a full day of videos. I stayed up late last night watching shows and watching movies, and I had such a fun time just sitting in the chair. Alex went to bed rather early last night, and so I had such a fun time just like sitting in the chair and watching all these shows and movies and stuff like that. So I was going through comments that I got on my last video, and so if you don't know this, if you haven't watched this channel in a while, I'm more dedicated these days to responding to comments that you guys have for me, comments that you guys leave on my videos and things like that, and doing response videos. Like, people for years have said, Peter, you should do like a Dear Peter thing, and I started that years ago, and then I never really followed through with it. So I thought, well, let's just kind of make this a Dear Peter channel, you know? Like, I'm not going to change the title of this channel. It's going to still be Peterisms. I kind of love that title, but I'm not going to change the title of this channel or the name of this channel. It's going to continue to be Peterisms, but that's probably the direction that I'm going to continue to move in, because I'm really having a lot of fun doing this, and I'm learning a lot from it as well, which is really, really helpful for me. Whenever I make videos, and like my vlog is very cathartic for me, you know? It's kind of like a living journal at the end of the day, and or whenever I do it. And so, you know, these videos over here next to my vlog on the Peterisms channels are also very, very helpful for me, whether I'm reading a meditation and I get something from that meditation or not. But here's the thing, is that I've been reading the meditations for several years. If you guys want me to do a video recommending all of the meditation books that I would suggest to you, I can do that video. But I've read them for so long that I'm like repeating year after year the same meditations, and so I thought, you know what, I want to kind of take this channel into a different direction. So if you have questions or anything that you want me to make videos about, especially this next upcoming week, leading up to Christmas and New Year's and things like that, if you guys have videos that you want me to make specifically around the holidays. I think holidays are extremely difficult for a lot of people, whether you're having to be around family that are tough for you to be around, or whether you're not going to be around anybody during the holidays, or whether or not you celebrate the holidays and everybody else does and you don't. You know, it can just be, or if you just went through like a breakup, holidays can be really tough for a lot of people. And so if you have specific questions that you guys would like me to address, or the experiences, you know, everything that I'm going to share is just based on life experience. It's not anything expert. So I want to make that clear. Like, I'm not an expert sharing anything over here. This is just my personal experience based on things that I've gone through in life. So I was going through these comments, and somebody left this comment like on 3 or 4 different videos, and actually they left it like a week ago as well, I think. And so they apparently really want me to answer this question. I mean, it's a good question. I think that my response will probably kind of surprise some people. So, but I have a feeling it's probably a question a lot of people would ask. And so I thought this is she's asked it on several videos. So, she obviously really wants a response to this, so let me respond to it. And like I said, this is just, my opinion based on my personal life experience, my experience, strength, and hope. It's not the end all. You could ask, 20,000 other people and get 20,000 different, responses. This is just my opinion. So this person said to me, can you discuss high-functioning addicts? Those that somehow manage to support a drug alcohol addiction as well as live a responsible life, meaning paying their bills, pays their bills, pays rent, mortgage, cares for their kids or family, essentially live their life but also uses on the side, seemingly having it under control. You can say my name if you'd like, which I'm not going to, but this is an interesting question. This is a term that I've heard ever since I got sober, was a functioning alcoholic or a functioning addict. And, sometimes they use the word like she did, high functioning, but basically what a high functioning alcoholic or a functioning alcoholic or addict is somebody that it's not really disrupting their life that much, What's interesting to me is, if it's like a friend of mine will come to me that's like not sober, right? But they want to ask me about their spouse or whatever. And usually this happens to me with like friends of mine that are women. And they'll come to me and they'll say, so I don't really know what to do about my husband. And I'm like, okay, like what's the issue, And they'll say, well, like, my husband is like, you've seen him, Peter, like, he can drink a little bit on the weekends. I'm like, okay, yeah. And they're like, but he's like a really high-functioning alcoholic, like, he gets up, he goes to work every day, he hangs out with the kids, takes care of the kids, goes to all the sporting events, pays the bills, he's a great father, he's a great dad, but, like, he drinks a lot, like, it's a lot. And I'm like, where's the problem? Because if the drinking isn't affecting anything negatively in your life, everything that this person just said, that they managed to support a drug and alcohol addiction as well as live a responsible life. Okay, I was not living a responsible life when I was actively using, and most addicts and alcoholics that I know were not living responsible lives. Some of them were paying their bills. Some of them were paying their mortgage and their rent. Some addicts and alcoholics that I knew in active addiction were caring for their friends and family. Essentially live their life, but also use on the side, seemingly having it under control. Well, I'm not really sure what seemingly having it under control is. When people ask me, like, a layman's term of, like, how I look at addiction. How I look at addiction, okay, is asking yourself, and this is not like a medical definition, this is Peter Monn's definition of how I look at it, right, is that you continue to do the same thing over and over again, knowing that you're going to suffer consequences, right? So, like, if you get a DUI and you're on probation for 6 months and you get done and, okay, maybe this was a fluke, okay? You were leaving a barbecue or whatever and you had too many drinks and you shouldn't have been in a car, blah, 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 whatever, right? Or, a situation like that, right? Like, those things, like, I've heard stories like that, whatever, right? Like, I'm not condoning that. I've heard stories like that. So, and then they get off probation, and most people at that point will learn, like, from now on, I will never get in a car. And, and it's typically people that, in that situation, that have maybe had, like, 2 beers and, whatever. And then, but what they've learned is, they will never ever get in a car and drink and drive again, right? Like, they will always Uber somewhere, they will always take a ride, they will never risk that again, right? So they've kind of learned from that, right? Then there's other people that will say, F it, the cops were out to get me. And then, then they come home and, they get off probation and 3 months, or maybe they're really struggling to not drink on probation because you're not supposed to drink on probation, right? Like, it's interesting to me how many reality shows I watch where people are like 90 Day Fiance, not 90 Day Fiance, Life After Lockup and Love After Lockup. This is very interesting to me. Whenever I see people on, like, house arrest bracelets and people that are on probation or parole, most probation and parole officers, it's a condition of your probation and your parole that you are not allowed to drink alcohol. Be in a bar, be around alcohol, be around other people that are on probation. They talk a little bit about that on Love After Lockup. You're not allowed to use illegal substances and stuff like that. And it's surprising to me how many people I watch on that show that are, like, literally on house arrest monitors and are drinking a beer on their front porch. I mean, I have enough friends of mine, I've had enough friends of mine that have been on house arrest monitors. I have friends of mine currently that are house arrest monitors that would never drink a beer in their front yard at the fear that their house arrest officer or their probation officer would drive by, because they can show up at any time, right? That to me is not functioning. That to me is your life is unmanageable at that point, right? And I think that as being the first step of recovery, as you know, that I'm powerless over this substance or that substance, and as a result my life has become unmanageable. You aren't defining for me unmanageability. I don't even know that you're defining for me addiction. You know, you're definitely, from a clinical medical term, you're not defining chemical dependency at all. So I don't understand. I guess my question is, I don't understand where the problem is. If this person is, are they just recreationally using? Like, I don't pass judgment on that. I have lots of friends. My husband drinks, you know. My husband pays bills. My husband works. My husband's responsible. He recreationally drinks. That's his business, you know, like, and it doesn't affect our relationship. If it affected our relationship, you know, he was coming home and we were getting into screaming and fighting matches because he had been drinking, that would be a different story. That doesn't happen. So therefore, it's not affecting our life, my life. It's not a problem. So I wouldn't even consider him I consider him a recreational. I would consider him somebody that likes to have a drink here and there, you know? I wouldn't even consider him, I mean, like, when we start getting onto terms of, like, recreational drinking, recreational, I don't know that I love the terms recreational addict or recreational alcoholic, because I think the terms alcoholic and addict are self-defined, first of all, and they're also so very serious that, like, recreational doesn't kind of really fit into those terms, you know? Like, I tell people this all the time, like, so we have these in meetings, but you can also get online and you can look it up, and it's like this test you can, if you've ever questioned whether or not you're an alcoholic or an addict, there's, like, you can Google search it, it's like, am I an addict test, am I an alcoholic test, right? And the majority of them are like 10 questions. And the questions, I'm laughing because, I mean, I failed it miserably, like, multiple times when I took it. Like, I can remember taking it back in the day, you know, and being like, oh my God, like, I can't believe this. But, like, the questions are things like, do I like sleep, like, do I pass out and sleep? I can't remember what the questions are exactly. I'm just kind of making these up, but I remember some of them. It's like, do I sleep in and miss family obligations, work or school? You know, do I not show up for my family? Am I not present around my family? Am I having financial issues as a result of my substance use? And I think the test is something like, if you take two, actually we should just look this up right now. I think the test is like, if you take two, or if you say yes to two of them, then you are an alcoholic or an addict. Am I an alcoholic addict test? Let's see this test. First thing that comes up is help is available. Alcohol dependency quiz. It's not really the one I wanted to use. SAMHSA National Hotline. If you're looking for treatment, SAMHSA is a great place to go to. Okay, am I alcoholic quiz, self-test for alcoholic addiction. I just want to read the questions to see what they are. How often do you have a drink containing alcohol? Okay, so for me, as an alcoholic, I'm going to answer these questions, okay? We'll see what happens. Never monthly. Can I take the test on here, or do I have to write it down? 2 times a month, 2 to 3 times a week, 4 or more times a week, 4 or more times a week. How many alcoholic drinks do you have on a typical day when you are drinking? 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, 7 to 9, 10 or more. I mean, some days it was 10 or more, but I would say average was about maybe 7 to 9. I don't know. How often do you have 6 or more drinks on one occasion? Daily. So the options are never, less than monthly, monthly, weekly. There's a bunch of these tests you can get on here and look. This is not the 12-step test, I can tell you that. How often during the past year have you found that you drank more or for a longer time than you intended? So what this is implying is controlled drinking, okay? And controlled drinking is something that in recovery we suggest that if you don't think that you are an alcoholic or an addict, right? Then, well, it's really more pertaining to alcoholism. But if you don't think that you're an alcoholic, right? Like if you come into the 12-step program and you think this isn't for me, then what is suggested is that you go out there and you try some controlled drinking. And what that means is that, like, maybe you feel like your drinking is a little out of control. And so, maybe at night you're drinking a bottle of wine, which I know to a lot of people sounds like a lot, but it really isn't, you know, for some people. And so, you know, instead of saying, okay, I'm going to have an entire bottle of wine tonight, you say, when I come home from work, I'm going to have a glass of wine when I come home from work, and one when I'm watching my TV show, and that's it, okay? And then if you can't stop at that, or you find yourself wanting more, then maybe you have a problem. But set a time limit, like I'm going to do this over 30 days. Or maybe when you go out to, you know, a bar on the way home from work, you have 4 drinks. Say I'm going to have 1 drink, and then I'm going to go home, right? Because usually those are the people that are, like, missing out dinner or coming home late, and then it's causing family fights and things like that. Or maybe you're going out on the weekend, right? And you're just, you know, getting blacked out and not remembering things and whatever because you're drinking 10 beers, right? And and your friends are buying you drinks and whatever. And so you set a boundary with yourself and you say, okay, I'm going to have 3 beers and I'm not going to accept any drinks or shots from anybody. And then you have to start setting limits for yourself. If you can follow those limits, the reality is you might not be an alcoholic. If you can't and you struggle with that, chances are you could be. That's up to you to decide. So this is what this is asking. This is asking about drinking more. That's called controlled drinking. And I'm talking about back in the day. I'm taking this test as if back in the day when I was drinking. How often during the past year have you found that you drank more or for a longer time than you intended? I mean, I never really had a plan of how much I was going to drink. How often during the past year have you failed to do what was normally expected of you because of your drinking? Like, these are some of the questions that are kind of like on the 12-step. I mean, I don't know if I would say daily, weekly, I guess. I didn't really have a lot of responsibilities towards the past year, weekly. How often during the past year have you had a drink in the morning to get yourself going after a heavy drinking session? Oh, in the past year? That was daily. How often during the past year have you felt guilty or remorseful after drinking? That was pretty often, daily, I'd say. How often during the past year have you been unable to remember what happened the night before because you're drinking? Daily. I was a blackout drinker. Have you or anyone else been injured as a result of your drinking? No. But I mean, that would take into effect emotional, you know, drinking as well. Has a relative, friend, doctor, or healthcare worker been concerned about your drinking or suggested that you cut down? Yes. Okay. My score was a total of 34. A total score of 8 or more indicates harmful drinking behavior. If you scored 8 to 10 or more, you are probably addicted to alcohol. I scored a 34. The test is from Lakeside, I don't know anything about this, Lakeside Monn Recovery Centers. But that's pretty similar to the 12-step one, you know? So I don't know if you have that question, but here's my thing, right? Like, when people come to me and they're like, they ask me about their spouse, right? And sometimes they'll say to me, like, so this is kind of how it usually goes. It's very similar to this question. They'll say, I don't know who you're asking for. I don't know if you're asking for yourself or for a friend or for your spouse or dad or mom or whatever, right? But this is how people will approach me. They'll say, okay, look, I have a question for you, right? Like, my husband is really high functioning, pays the bills, you know, and, you know, goes to work and shows up for all the kids' stuff and blah, 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 whatever. Should I be concerned? And I'm like, where's the problem? Like, I don't understand where's the problem, right? And they're like, well, you know, the drinking's getting kind of out of hand a little bit. And I'm like, are you worried from a medical point of view? Like, that's a completely different story, right? If you're worried about, like, cirrhosis of the liver or other things that could happen as a result of your drinking, are you worried about this from a medical point of view? Oh, no, it's nothing like that. Like, they drink a lot, but nothing like that. But they're really high functioning, right? What I typically hear in this is excuse making, okay? Nobody would come to me and say, and this is just my experience, right, of what I have lived. This could be completely different for the person that's asking the question, I don't know. But in my experience, nobody's coming to me and asking me that question if there really are no problems related to the drinking or the drugging, right? I mean, I've had the same question with people asking me about, like, smoking pot. You know, they'll be like, well, it's not a problem. And I'm like, okay. And then you know, 3 conversations later, they're like, well, like, the first thing they do when they get up in the morning is they smoke pot. And, you know, like, they do take care of stuff, but, like, they're forgetting a lot of stuff. Or, you know, like, we're struggling a little bit. Like, bills are paid fine, but, like, we're struggling a little bit. because he's spending $800 a month on pot. I mean, it starts to kind of come out over time, right? And I'm like, oh, so it's a bigger issue than you were saying at first, because we are those people's chief enablers, right? I had a lot of them too in my life, right? And so we make excuses and things like that. There's my favorite neighbors. Hello. It's too cold to sit out here.
It's still cold.
Today's a little bit nicer.
Sunshine.
It's a little nicer today.
Sunshine.
Enjoy your walk.
Love this weather.
I know, it's nice.
I would like a little snow for Christmas.
I want snow for Christmas too.
Yeah.
Bye. Oh, thank you for my Christmas card. I told your husband.
You're welcome.
Oh, it's so sweet.
You're welcome.
So, I have literally the best neighbors in the entire world. So anyway, you know, it's interesting to me when people bring to me, like, not in videos, like, I think this is the first time I've ever, maybe the first time I've gotten, well, I mean, from this person, like, they've asked a couple times, which is totally fine, because I think it's a good question, but, like, I don't get this question a lot on videos, right, like, but in my personal life, in all honesty, I get this question a lot from people that know that I'm sober, right, and they'll come to me and they'll be like, you know, like, friends of mine, and they'll be like, I'm just concerned. Well, what are you concerned with, right, like, if they're paying the bills, they're going to work, they're great fathers, they're great husbands, you don't have anything to worry about, they're home, they're present, what are you worried about? Well, they're drinking. Well, is it a medical issue? Oh, no, not at all. Then what area of your life is it affecting? I'm confused, okay? Like, people that are alcoholics are people that have problems in their life related to drinking. People that are addicts are people that have problems in their life related to their drug use, right? Like our lives are pretty much a mess at that point. And so what usually ends up happening is those people are coming to me because they think that their spouse or whoever is drinking a lot. Like, what's really ended up happening is they're you know, getting drunk, slurring their words, they can't make it up to the bedroom. Those things slowly come out, right? So what it is it's the behaviors are bothering me, okay? Like, they are functioning and doing all these things, but they are very drunk at home at night, and I don't like it. Well, that's a problem, okay? I know a lot of people that have gotten sober, you know, and come into meetings or gone into treatment because their spouses alone are like, I cannot continue to deal with this on a nightly basis or even a 3-night-a-week basis of you being so drunk that you can't make it up to the bedroom or falling down or breaking glasses or whatever. Or the kids are asleep and they're not aware of it at all. But I'm so worried about what's going to happen next and he's going to get another beer in the refrigerator. So there are issues. So it's not that high functioning. Because if you're concerned about your spouse on that level or whoever it is in your life, then it's not functioning. They're not functioning. That's a reality. If it were that functioning, they wouldn't be asking the question. Because what you would know is this is just somebody that likes to have a few drinks here and there. Well, there's no problem with that. That's legal. They're allowed to do that if they're over the age of 21. You know, if it's not causing any problems and they know when to stop. Like, that term high functioning to me is confusing. Because a high-functioning alcoholic would indicate somebody that is getting a lot of stuff done, but, like, by the terms of, I mean, it's kind of contradictory, if that makes sense to me. Alcoholics, by definition, are not high-functioning. So, whenever that word is used, and I've heard it in 12-step meetings left and right, high-functioning addict, high-functioning alcohol, I hear it all the time, right? I don't agree with that term personally. Because I don't know how you are an alcoholic or an addict and you're high-functioning. It doesn't make sense to me. I wasn't. The people that I know aren't. So, but do I hear those terms? Absolutely. I think I've used the term before on here, you know, probably describing somebody in my life. But what I ultimately had to step back and look at, I think, and I've learned through the years, is they really weren't that high functioning. They were people that had a lot of problems, you know, and the reality was I just really didn't want to look at those problems, you know, because it was easier to look at their successes than it was to look at my fear and my worry about what was ultimately going to happen. So I don't know. Have them take the test, you know, see if it's affecting their life, or, you know, ask yourself, like, why am I even asking? I guess the question I would say to this person is, ask yourself why you're asking the question. Like, you know, is there the reason why you want me to talk about it? For me, there's people that drink recreationally. There's people that, you know, may struggle with using things for a period of their life and then they don't anymore. And then there's people that are chemically dependent, alcoholics, addicts, things like that, right? Like, for me, there's a range. There's a lot of people in this world that can go out and, you know, drink and smoke weed, and it doesn't affect their lives, right, at all. That was not the case. I mean, I got a 34 on that test, and that was 29 years ago almost, you know, a week shy of, or 4 days shy of 29 years ago, you know. So I failed it miserably 29 years ago. I don't know that I would have been willing to be that honest unless I was in the privacy of my own home taking that test 29 years ago. Today, I take it on camera, you know? I'm not ashamed of that today because of the life that comes with being sober. But I will say this, like, this is something I always say to all of my friends. You can ask, I've had several friends of mine that have come to me, and many of them have decided it's not for them. And they're like, well, do you think that I'm an alcoholic or an addict? Do you think that I'm smoking too much pot? Do you think that I'm drinking too much? I'm like, that's a decision that you have to make, you know? That is not a decision that I'm going to make for you. Well, do you think that I need to go to meetings and whatever? I'm like, hey, try it, you know? We're not a cult. You know, I know people think that we are, but we're not. You know, try it. Go to a couple meetings. You want me to recommend some meetings? You go, you know? If you feel like you want to stick around, get a sponsor. Try it out for 90 days, 30 days, you know? If it's not for you, you know, like we say, we will happily refund your misery. Go back out there doing what you do. I know a lot of people that come in and they try it and they're like, this is not for me, you know? I don't think that this is, like, it's that bad of a deal for me. That's totally fine, you know? For me, it didn't work. For me, I wasn't functioning. High, low, medium, whatever, I wasn't functioning. I don't know. I don't really feel like somebody that's functioning that greatly and is not affecting their family or their friends in any kind of negative way, and they're just getting up and in the evening they're having a couple drinks. What's to discuss, I guess, but I think it's a good question because I think a lot of people have that question. So I think break it down a little bit more is what I would say, you know. Ask yourself why you're asking the question to begin with. What is really bothering you about the situation? What's really going on there? And look at that. And then ask yourself if that piece is really that high functioning, is what I would ask, you know? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so thank you guys for watching. I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.